So we're going to have some exponents and signed fractions, but I want to remind you that after you expand, you want to count how many negatives there are. And if you have an even amount of negatives, then your final answer is positive. And if you have an odd amount of negatives, then your final answer is negative. So in this one right here, if we expand, 3 squared, 3 to the second power means 3 multiplied by 3. And I'm not going to change the denominator. I'm going to leave that -2. So now that I've expanded, I'm just going to multiply straight across. 3 times 3 is 9 over 2. But if you look right here and count how many negatives are there, there's only 1 negative sitting here. So I know that since 1 is an odd number, my final answer is going to be negative. So I'm going to have 9 over -2, or you could just say, you could put this negative off to the side. Either way is fine, but 3 times 3 is 9. We have 2. There's only 1 negative odd amount, so the answer is negative. Okay, in this one, if we expand, the only thing sitting in the top is a 3, but in the bottom, 2 cubed means 2 times 2 times 2. So I'm going to go ahead and expand that out. So 3 is still there, 2 times 2 times 2 in the denominator. And then, okay, then we're going to just multiply across. And I'm going to end up with 3 over, and 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. We don't have any negatives in the problem, so our final answer is positive. Okay, so continuing down here just to do a few more. The negative sitting in front of the set of parentheses is a -1. So I'm going to jot down -1, and then I'm going to have, I'll just go ahead and recopy this to make sure that you notice that this negative is a -1. Now if I go to expand, I'm going to have -1 times 5/4. Since it's to the third power, we're going to put in 3 of those. And then ultimately we'll multiply across, but let's count our negatives. There's only 1 negative sitting here. So since 1 is an odd number, our final answer is going to be a negative. So let's go ahead and put that over there. And then the fraction, multiplying straight across, 5 times 5 is 25. And 25 times 5 is 125. So I'm going to have 125 over, and then 4 times 4 is 16, and 16 multiplied by 4 is 64. Okay, this one here, if we expand, squared means write that thing twice. So this is going to be equal, and then let's write that twice. So -3/4 multiplied by -3/4. Okay. And then let's count how many negatives we have. I have 2 negatives sitting here. So an even amount of negatives, my answer is positive. And then I want to multiply straight across. So 3 multiplied by 3 is 9. And 4 multiplied by 4 is 16. Okay, I saved the trickiest one here for last because it's common. You guys are starting to get used to when you see a negative side by side, you immediately think positive. But let's rewrite this negative out front like we did this one. If we put the negative out front and know that that's really a -1. Duplicate. And then I'm going to put next to that this. Remember, in order of operations, we do exponents before multiplication. So we would want to find the answer to -1/4 times -1/4, get an answer, and then we'd be ready to do the multiplication times -1. But what I'm doing is going to just expand. So if I expand, I have my -1, I have my -1/4 squared, so I have two of them. And let's count how many negatives we have. -1 times -1/4 times -1/4, we have 1, 2, 3 negatives sitting there. 3 is an odd number, so our final answer is going to be negative. Danger, danger, right? Because right there, it's tempting to say negative, negative is positive. But our final answer is going to be negative. Notice one more time, I turned that negative into a -1, then I copied -1/4 twice, counted my negatives. Okay, so then I know my answer is negative, and then 1 times anything is itself, multiplying straight across. 1 times 1, we'll have 1 in the numerator. And then multiplying straight across, 4 times 4 is 16. And so our final answer is -1/16. If you followed order of operations, you may have done -1/4 times -1/4 and gotten +1/16. And then +1/16 times -1 is -1/16. Okay, so in your notes, you might want to star this one because it's the one that usually causes people the most problems.